funny. Like I said, we're like two super smart people, and like going live on YouTube is just really kind of fun. And I'm so excited that we can finally do it, because our goal has always been to be able to go live.
Absolutely. You're right.
Oh, it's so fun though. I'm just going to make sure, I'm going to check really quick. And again, we're just being normal, like how we are, but I'm going to check really quick that everything is rolling. Oh, everything is good. Super smart people, and like going live on YouTube is just really kind of fun. And I'm so excited that we can finally do it, because our goal has always been to be. All right. So there you have it. So it's going live right now. That was the recording that you could hear after we spoke. Anyways, how are you, Doug?
I'm doing great. How are you this morning?
Oh, I'm great. It's, I love Saturday mornings because I work out, I make breakfast for my fiance, and it's like nobody's calling. It's like peaceful. You can totally chill and be relaxed. That's why I love doing the podcast with you on Saturdays, because I'm just very relaxed.
You know what it is? I think everything in life, you need a day of rest, going way back to biblical times. And I think it's definitely true. Anybody that's ever been in a position where they have to work 7 days a week, it starts to wear you down. And you really do need that 1 day off or 2 days off to just recharge and get your thoughts back and energy, and just get focused on what you want to do. And I found that to be really the case, even in football. I mean, we even get a day off in football during the season, and it's the recharge, and it just bring back physically and mentally who you are and what you can do. Because I think if you just look at a person every single day going out and working, 8, 12 hours a day, I just think you just slowly wear down.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. Like, because both you and I are the same. We like go nonstop, 24/7, all day, all week, all day, and make everything happen, from kids to family to everything. And it is nice. Like for me, doing this podcast with you, it's like going on vacation. I like, it's literally, I feel like I like have a break of just hanging out with my friend and just visiting and talking. And I just so enjoy it, because you're an inspiration to me always, like I say.
Well, I think both of us have been through enough life experiences that we can reflect on some of those things. And some of those were really positive. Some weren't as positive. Some required a tremendous amount of energy and attention. Other ones required very little attention. And I think when you go through things like that, you gain experience quickly. And I think that's the most unfortunate part for younger people trying to put together what their life is going to be after high school. They've lived at home generally. They've been told what to do their entire life, where to go, when to do it. And all of a sudden this independence is on the horizon, and they start thinking about it. And I think a lot of times it really, really scares them. I think that's why the majority of younger people, I think, would like to look at something like college for a 4-year respite, some period of time where that's going to be the last really time in their life that they're going to have an opportunity just to sit back and take a deep breath and try to figure out where they're going.
Yeah, it's funny because I think back to, now being 50 years old, I think back to like when I went to college, when I made those decisions, when I decided, I didn't overthink it. And I think the biggest thing from the people I've spoke with this week, I'm building the Soaring Summit for July, and putting all the marketing together for that. And so many speakers, I think the biggest thing is making sure that you're confident and that you have, you can know that you can achieve what you want. Just like you and I are a perfect example. This is our first time doing it live. And you know what? It takes time to figure it out. It takes time to do it, but we just did it. We just did it, because when you just do it, everything else is going to fall into place. And it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to not have something be perfect, but just getting the message out there. And that's why I say to all my speakers is get the message out there, share your passions, share what you want to do, because every person's mess becomes somebody's message. And even if you only help one person, like you and I have talked about, helping one person makes all the difference in the world, because you can change somebody's life.
There's no doubt about it. I just think back to that story I've maybe told you once or twice when I was coaching at Ohio State University football. And there was a player on the team that was not on scholarship. He was what they called a walk-on player. He tried out for the football team and made it, and he was on the team. Was he a starter? No, he wasn't a starter because, you know, of a couple things. I think he was a really, really good football player. He was on special teams, which are the kickoff return, the punt return, extra points, that sort of thing. And not to diminish those positions, because I think those are the most difficult, challenging plays that in a football game. I think you exert more energy and effort on special teams than you ever do on offense or defense, because literally you're running almost the entire length of the field and trying to either catch the ball or block someone or tackle someone. So, I mean, it's amazing how much energy you expend on these special teams. And so there was a player at Ohio State that was leading the team in kickoff tackles, was not on scholarship. He was actually a rugby player. And, you know, he wanted to talk to me after one of the practices, and he was real frustrated because he could not crack that first team playing opportunity. He just kept being on special teams. And he wanted to, you know, think about maybe even going to another college where he would get a better opportunity, you know, maybe a Division II school versus a Division I, you know, which means basically the level of play is just a little bit lower, not a lot lower. You know, it's just that you don't have a, like, you know, when you're in Division I college football, you probably have at least, you know, on every team, 5 guys that could play in the NFL. If they mentally and physically exerted themselves, there's probably at least 5 players on every Division I team that could play in the National Football League. That number drops down as you go down Division II, Division III. You know, obviously the requirements in terms of work ethic, being at practice, all those things, you know, are greater in Division I also. So, but I convinced him to stay at Ohio State rather than trying to go to a smaller school and get more playing opportunity. And I told him, you know, I had just come from the Falcons, and I said there's 32 Falcons at the time, or scouts at the time, Falcon scouts, that went around and looked at nothing but colleges. They studied 365 days a year, players that were in college. And I said, I promise you, somebody knows who you are. They've seen you on kickoffs. There's special teams plays in pro football. You have a great chance, based on your experience here at Ohio State, of getting picked up, drafted by some other NFL team. And so he listened to my advice. He stayed at Ohio State. He was drafted by the Patriots. And, you know, I think he's been there like 8 years. I think he just reassigned himself his playing rights to the New York Giants. My point is, you know, he's been now 9 years in the National Football League. You know, to have some impact on that, because, you know, he could have gone to it someplace else and never, ever been heard of from again. And, you know, just giving somebody some advice that makes a difference in their life, you know, and it doesn't have to be about football. It can be about anything. I mean, any career recommendation, or even a personal recommendation, it goes a lot, you know. And I know you've done the same thing for people. Just share your experiences with them, and sometimes that's all it takes for them to make a decision.
Absolutely, 100%. You know, it's funny because my son just decided this week that he is going to go to ASU. So I'm excited.
Great.
I'm going to be able to come in August and be able to visit you and Nancy and say hi while I drop my son off at school. And it's a big decision. And it's just, you know, for me, I look back at when I went to college and how exciting it is to have that whole outlook on life and just be like 18 years old. Like, if you could go back to when you were 18 years old, what is it that you would tell yourself? Like, what would you say if you were 18 years old to your own self? You know, I thought about that this week when he was making the decision of where he was going to school. And I think that, you know, wisdom is the biggest thing. And it's so fun to see people evolve and see people be successful and see people make things happen. That's huge.
Yeah, it makes a big difference, and you don't realize it until you go through it yourself. And you go, I just went through a life-changing event, and either I made a bad decision or I made the right decision. Or maybe it's even something that you learned early in your life. Like I said before, when I did a job, my first job on the garbage truck, working on a garbage trash truck, I knew I didn't want to do that again. And, so it's not just about learning what you want to do, it's learning what you don't want to do. And you have total freedom. That's the other thing. You wake up in the morning, your mother or your father is not going to come in your bedroom and say, hey, listen, get dressed, yeah, you need to go to school, and you only got so much time, and you're going to have to catch the bus or walk to school. And nobody does that. There's no knocks on the door. No, there's no reminders of what your itinerary is for the day. It's you set your own itinerary. And what happens, I truly believe, I think that's really the first underpinnings of your success or failure in life. I think what you set up for your own personal self is dynamic. I mean, I think it changes lives. And people go, well, how did you get here? When I would go back to the small town I lived in Pittsburgh, and they said, well, how did you make it to the National Football League, Doug? It wasn't a one-day decision. It wasn't one thing that happened to me. I got a phone call. Hey, do you want to go in the NFL? No, it wasn't like that at all. Every single day, it was something that I did. Some workout, some training.
You work towards it. You work towards it every day for many years.
Every day. That's it. Every day. And all they see is the change in you going from, let's say, being in college. You're in some other occupation. You went there for maybe biology or something, and you end up getting hired by some media company from college. How did that happen? Well, you had your antennas up, you were listening and understanding what opportunities were out there, and you took advantage of them. I mean, how many people in your life, oh, I know what I want to be at when I was 5 years old. Sometimes when your parent has like an occupation, like a doctor or dentist or some other profession, I understand that, there's that, cause that impact daily impact. But, to be able to have a career very similar to your parents, like in the medical field or whatever, I think it's really a noble gesture. I mean, I think, it's an example of how much parents influence children on a daily basis. And, and gets back to what you were just talking about, Megan, we as human beings, whether we have children or brothers or sisters, we owe it to them, if we've had something positive happen to us, to be able to share that experience with somebody else.
Totally. It's funny because I don't know if you've ever heard about Mastermind, but I'm always about learning and getting better and being better and growing as a person. And so Mastermind is kind of cool, but so I was watching, so I don't watch TV, quote unquote. I love watching educational documentaries to learn, because wisdom is something you gain from experience. Well, so you can only gain it from experience. So the only way to learn it versus living it is to gain it from somebody else. So I was watching Wayne Gretzky, and at 6 years old, he knew what he was going to do. But again, his influence was his dad, and his dad was very influential. And but it was really interesting to listen to him, because he's a very humble, quiet person. But he's an amazing, to listen to his knowledge, and just like with you, to listen to what drove him, what made him just go for it always 24/7 is really inspiring. And, I think that we can do that at every level for so many different people. But yeah, it was really fun to listen to him talk, because he lives out here by where I'm at.
What's great about people too, that I think our ears, we have two ears, we only have one mouth. I think our maker was sending a message to us. Listen twice as much as you talk, because when you talk, sometimes you just overpower everybody that's in the room or that's trying to give you information. You ever have somebody that you were trying to share some things with, but you couldn't do it? They just kept talking and talking and talking. Now, if the talking was something valuable and the information coming was, I understand that. But, I really don't care to hear about somebody's, golf game on the 15th hole and how he missed a putt because he leaned too forward. I mean, come on. I'm sorry. I don't really play golf. I mean, I did it one time. But, when you're telling somebody that information that they have absolutely no concern for, it's not going to help them in any way, shape, or form. Why are you just, bludgeoning the whole conversation with things that don't make any sense, that aren't going to be of any value to somebody else, or experiences you've had, so I always keep thinking every time I start talking, is this really of value, Doug? Does this person really want to hear this? Sometimes I don't even want to hear my own self talk. So
I love hearing everything that you say. Never shut yourself down. You're awesome.
I think that, we all have a responsibility of sharing something like I said before, to be able to have an impact on somebody's life, that a decision that they made, that you gave them some information, or gave them some information not to make a decision, because that's just as important. It's everybody thinks, oh yes, he's a great person because he made all these great decisions. Well, sometimes the decision is not to do anything or not get involved. I mean, so it's not like you got to keep going and going and going and getting involved. No, you're going to quickly run out of time. You have to put everything and categorize it, very, very important, not very important. And I'll be honest with you, that's how I regard my friends and people that I know. Very, very important way up here, not very important way down here. And why would I want to try to spend my whole day in conversation or interaction with somebody that I really don't think is going to have any impact on my life? I wouldn't.
You know what though? That again is a learning lesson. That's something you learn through life, because your reach goes so far. And I was a victim of that, of trying to help everybody do everything. And then I decided, just like what you just said, there's a certain amount of people and you prioritize them, and then you focus on that. And focus on the positive, focus on the good stuff, because you're right. Otherwise, your reach becomes too long.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. We don't have any choice in like our family, our brothers, sisters, mother, father, whatever. And sometimes, like my dad really worked hard his whole life, but he wasn't like that person that has when you wake up every morning, he wouldn't know what 32 stocks prices were, whether they had gone up or down overnight. That wasn't who he was. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, we're all experts in fields. We're all ignorant in other fields. And my father was he was one of these persons that never wanted to say much. There was some saying, and I don't want to try to screw it up, but it's better to maybe remain silent and be regarded as a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. And make it look like, yeah, he's exactly who I thought he was. He's an idiot. And so my dad always was a good listener. He wouldn't say very much at all. And but I knew that he was always digesting and listening, to the conversation and maybe how he could impact it and things like that. And I appreciated him for that, because, he spoke from his heart all the time. And, he didn't talk to me many times during my life in terms of like one-on-one. But when he did, it was important. And I was listening. And, it's almost like, I think sometimes, rather than trying to be an expert on everything, which I try to do all the time, maybe sometimes just, dial it back to just a few items that you can maybe talk on intelligently, rather than saying, hey, listen, I'm the genius of all times. I can talk on any subject, listen to me. All you can do is really, talk about things that you've learned and things that you've experienced. And, it's good to sometimes to fill those volumes of information up with as much information as you can. Who would not want to have, to know people from all over the world or all these different professions? Well, I mean, what a wise man you would be, because you would know a little bit about everything. And
exactly. Jack of all, my dad used to call it jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades. Yeah, it is. It's, and it allows you then to.
Well, you're a great example of that. You are like that.
Well, I think the licenses, at least you can start talking dialogue. It's like we could talk to 50 people around the world that are from different countries. If they have a different language, what conversation are we going to have, Megan? None, zero. I mean, I can maybe smile, I like, hey, they still don't know what I'm saying, So my point is, I think if you're really going to try to hit the target with another person in terms of communication, you got to talk on their level. You have to use their words, their terminology. That's why I enjoy, I always liked after the games where all these reporters would come around and I'm not saying just my locker, but every locker, and ask you all these questions. And I always I go, where are you from? Tell me the paper you work for. How long have you been covering football? Because they would ask you questions like, Doug, how do you feel after you put your uniform on? Tell me what that feels like. It feels like anything else. It's a shirt. It's a pair of pants. It's socks. I mean, how am I going to, what do you mean it feels like? That's what I'm saying. There's a person there that has never talked to anybody else in the world of football or been in sports themselves. And so, but if you take the effort and you do some reading, and you know what, I'll tell you what really blows me away when I meet somebody for the first time. They go through my record, my my profile, like it was just written. They're telling me about what grade I scored on a civics test in my senior year in high school, when I graduated, where I went to college, what I majored in. Amazing. And then they started saying, Doug, I'll never forget that game you had against Michigan, in 1972, where you made this tackle at the goal line. And I'm going, now this person has done their work, their homework. I mean, they know more about me than I know about myself. I'm going, that's amazing. I said, how did you know that? How did you find that out? And they said, well, I went and did this research on you. And so I wanted to make it feel like, when we had our conversation, it wasn't a one-sided affair. We could have dialogue back and forth. And so what I've tried doing in the future, when I know I'm going to meet somebody, I go out of my way to try to do some background on them and research. And you know what? Even if they don't say anything, Megan, I'm telling you, it hits their heart. That resonates with them, because not everybody does that. Like nobody, like I said, it blew me away when this guy, I was actually going to do an NFL game with him, and he was going to be the play-by-play guy, and I was going to be the analyst. And he'd rather just say, hey, Doug, how you doing? Let's have a nice day, whatever. No, he goes through this whole litany of what I've done in my life. I'm going, hey, stop. You got me at hello. It's like, you don't need to go into any of this other stuff. And but I think we all can really sharpen our skills and really really become a very, very good not only a person for dialogue, but let the other person know, hey, we care. We care about you, and I really want to know what makes you tick, and why your perspective comes on many different things like that. And when you do a little bit of homework with people, wow, it starts coming through the clouds crystal clear.
Yeah, no, and I agree 100%. I mean, my soul, I'm at heart a journalist, and that's why I ask questions all the time, because I truly want to know, because I truly believe people's stories are the best stories in the world, and every human being has an amazing story, and they have a purpose. And so I love sharing I love just hearing about it, because I already know myself. I already know my deal.
Yep.
I'd much rather hear about other people's stuff and what they're doing and what they want to accomplish.
You know what's great though, Megan, about life? You don't have to just do it by yourself. You're going to be with other people, and you learn things. You don't have to be the one guy that goes out of his way and just learns everything by himself. No, you can learn from reading. Now, I don't do as much reading as I should. They say a person that doesn't read is no better than a person that can't read. And my mother used to tell me that. And so she was always, hey, you need to read this, you need to read that. And, it's true. I mean, I remember things that I read a long time ago that stuck with me. And there's a whole bunch of information out there about a whole bunch of different topics. None we don't even know anything about, because we've never researched it. We've never gone out of our way to pay attention, to do the reading necessary to make you somebody else. And, when I have a certain opinion about certain people sometimes, and then I have a conversation with them, I may like them or I may not like them. I don't want to say hate, because I don't hate anybody. There's people I don't really, want to be around that much often. But, then I start reading some things about what's happened to them and their experiences. Megan, it totally takes away any my opinions or feelings because, man, they have gone through hell, in terms of personal experiences, occupational, all these sort of things that any person just to survive that, I have huge respect for. And I don't, has it had an impact on them? Yeah. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. But, I appreciate what they've done and just the toughness and tenacity to get through it. It could be physical. It doesn't have to always be mental. Just, a lot of athletes that I met that have had incredible injuries and things like that and came back from it. I mean, it's like, how do you come back from that? It's like you need ligaments to hold your knees and stuff together, and when those things snap, it's not like a Tonka toy where you just put it back together again. It's not Legos. And, you got to walk around the rest of your life with that and to see what they've done in terms of, not feeling sorry for themselves and just basically turning into a whole different person physically and mentally. And I just have huge respect for them. And, I don't even necessarily have to like them. That doesn't mean I still don't have great respect for them for what they've done and what they've accomplished.
I get that 100%. All right. So Doug, I just got to tell you. So I'm so excited because we're doing this live. So couple of things I just want to share with you because I want to keep our live stuff not too long because people are listening to it while they're driving to work or they're driving home or they're making dinner. So we want to keep them like 30 minutes because you and I can talk for hours. But so next week, I'm going to set it up so that we can go live on all of our platforms. So this was our little test for all of our fans and friends out there, more than anything, friends. But so then the other thing is the book. Check out the cover, and we'll talk about that in a few weeks with our friends. But Doug and I are doing a really super cool book, which I'm really super excited about. So we'll talk about that in a few weeks, but we're just getting everything squared away. But Doug, check your text because it's there. And then next week, we'll go live on our Facebook and LinkedIn and all the stuff. We'll do it all together. If that's okay with you. All right, Doug, I lost you. See you in a little bit.